basically find out what your employees want and need, and then provide some level of response to that. And I think that's where organizations may be missing it right now with this Great Resignation, is not taking the time to know what those things are, and just expecting employees to, do what I say and get on board or find yourself another home.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here on the MISHRM podcast. I'm Greg Coyne, your host as always. And what I'd like to do today is introduce a very special guest. Her name is Amy Bergman. She is the owner of Insight HRM. I have along the way been talking about bringing on resource partners, but also on this podcast, I'm looking to bring in people from the HR community, people that have experience. And one of the beautiful things about what Amy brings to the table is the fact that she not only is an entrepreneur, but she's had a ton of experience when it comes to the HR community. She's been involved in the HR field for over 25 years, and she is an active member with MISHRM, way to go, her local chapter, for the last 20 years. So Amy, welcome to the show today. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much, Greg. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thanks. And here's the thing. As always, I want to give people a perspective of the HR community, what's out there, what's going on. And I felt that you being a business owner, it's been my experience that most people within the HR community, they don't necessarily go and venture out on their own and become a business owner. You've done that. So what I'd like to find out, first of all, is tell me a little bit more about Insight HRM, what you do, and kind of what brought you to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks. Insight HRM, we provide outsourced HR solutions, right? So we partner with organizations that have a team of HR folks or an individual that conducts HR, and kind of work alongside them to add value, help them get things from their to-do list to done. And then we also work with organizations that maybe don't have the budget or the size to necessitate having an HR person on staff. So we take those HR functions and conduct them for them on more of an outsourced basis. And we also just work on projects for folks, like the call I just got off of today. Someone called to pick my brain about performance appraisals and how to go from a paper and pencil old-fashioned way of doing things to a more progressive, systematic way of automating that. So just all types of different services in the HR space. A lot of what we do is providing guidance and counsel to business owners, both for-profit and nonprofit. So what got me to this place, to starting this organization, was just really a passion for working with organizations. Back in my financial services days, when I was working for a bank in an HR role, we had commercial businesses that needed HR help. And so they would reach out, and they'd get passed over to me as the HR banker, and I would be providing guidance to those businesses. So I just really was fond of that. And I had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to create a boutique service that would provide that to other organizations that needed it. So built the company about 6 years ago and have been going strong ever since. Enjoy really, just connecting with lots of different organizations to provide them that level of help that they really desperately need.
That's awesome. And because there's a few things in there, you gave us a lot, and it's pretty cool because most, and I'm sure you know this, and most of our listeners do too, the fact is that most businesses don't last the first year, let alone 5 years. And now for you, you've gone beyond that in the 6 years. What do you consider one of the main reasons for that success? You could say it's sustainable now. You've started to gather legs and momentum and really build people's departments or their businesses through HR. So why don't you go there? What do you think is the reason?
Well, I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball to really No, for sure. But I think it's attributable to just really kind of meeting people where they are and bringing a customized solution versus an off-the-shelf, one-size-fits-all solution. So really getting a partnership with that organization to learn more about their culture, the styles of each person, like on those leadership teams or the owners, understanding what their tolerance levels are for different types of things, and then really kind of just customizing the work that we do to be beneficial to them. And of course, word of mouth is vital for business success. So having a good reputation and building upon that, great centers of influence to work with and referral sources, great partners, certainly have been part of the recipe for the success that Insight HRM has had. And just being like a reputable, credible resource to organizations. And a lot of that, quite frankly, has been attributable to my work in the HR space with organizations like SHRM and the SHRM chapters, and the development opportunities that's provided to me, the growth opportunities, all of the collaborations with the various resource partners and the great presenters and volunteer leaders that are within this organization, certainly has provided a lot of depth to what my knowledge set is and that of my team members. Like, all of the folks on our team are very active in various SHRM chapters and things like that. So I think a lot of that is our recipe for success.
I love it. I love it. And full disclosure, I will say, I've been lucky enough to work with you and at least have my clients be introduced to you, because I think you do a great job. And for small business, that is something that gets missed. Small business, misses a lot. It's part of the reason that we're in business. We feel a great need and a void, but they don't always think about HR as that big swing and miss, and you fill that void. It's been great to be able to introduce you to some of our clients and have you help them. Now, here's the funnier part though, and that is, we talked about small business. I'm sure there are listeners out there and viewers that have these, how do I put it, myths in their head about what HR is and what business ownership is, but I'll stick with HR for the moment. When you hear that word myth, what do you think one of the biggest ones is for people that they're like, HR, human resources, I've got this. I have an understanding what that is, but they don't. What do you think the biggest myth, just in your eyes, is?
Well, yeah, the one thing I think that people get hung up on, that are leading organizations, especially smaller organizations, say less than 100 employees, is that they're not big enough to need HR, or, maybe they have, a small company with 10 or 20 employees, and they're like, my spouse runs the office. They handle HR for our company, And so a lot of times the myth is that they don't need it because of size. And quite frankly, if you have just one employee, you're going to need some level of guidance on HR related issues, because there's different things that, not just legal, but obviously just managing the people side of your business. And of course, what everyone's dealing with over the last couple of years with employee engagement and satisfaction and retention and attraction. There's just so many elements to it that, you may be, the best widget maker, production person ever to run this organization, but you need a good partner on the people side of your business too. Yeah,
that's a great observation. And I'll ask this too, Amy. It kind of coincides with that question. We have, it's part of the reason we have the podcast, is to bring resource partners on and to have them talk a little bit more about their businesses as well. There is something though that I'm kind of curious about, and that is it's not necessarily a myth, but what I like to find out is, if there are resource partners out there that are looking to dip their toe in the HR community and maybe they don't know enough about it, what would one piece of advice be that you could give to them, whether it be to, and I hate to use the word, but I'm going to, sell into an organization at the HR level, or to understand the community a little bit more? What would be at least one piece, if not more, pieces of advice that you could give to them?
Well, to have conversations and learn about what their pain points are. A lot of times, I mean, not necessarily HR resource partners, but just any sort of potential B2B type solicitation. If you don't know what the source of pain is, and I'm preaching to the choir here, Greg is like the master sales trainer and developer, you know these things. You've got to understand what the source of pain is. And so one great way that like our resource partners can do that is to become engaged with the HR leaders that you're hoping to gain a relationship with and build obviously business with. So you do that through, going to networking events and being a credible presenter, a valued resource at events or conferences, or putting on free webinars or paid webinars, publishing information, sharing information that you think would be of value to them, but learning about what their needs are, what their pain points are. Like if someone's going to call me today and just cold call me to solicit business, I hope the opener is, beyond you have a minute for me, is something about like, I bet you're really struggling with the COVID management mandates, and have some sort of dialogue about relating to what that HR person might be, struggling with, challenged with, what their needs are currently, or it's year end. I bet you're dealing with performance appraisals or blah, blah, blah. So I think it's just really meeting people where they are and trying to take a minute to understand exactly what their pain points are and their needs are before you start trying to sell them on solutions that they may not even need.
Love that answer, Amy. And it wasn't, this is not something that I knew would come out of your mouth, and that's great. It's
no,
great.
It was unscripted.
It was unscripted is what I was looking for. Thank you. Because here's the other thing too, and you mentioned it, a lot of businesses right now are dealing with a bit of struggle for retention, whether it be good employees, whether it be as nowadays people call it the Great Resignation. People are finding different ways to spend their time and earn. I think one of the things that you do that's great is helping those companies with retention. I guess it's a two-part question. One is, what have you seen in terms of some of those retention problems, not necessarily from your clients, but maybe some of those that haven't become clients of yours yet, number one. And number two, what are some advice that you might give to some business owners to say, hey, maybe you should look to incorporate X in order to hold on to some of these good employees?
Yeah. Well, I'd say, one of the things that's getting folks in trouble right now is not asking employees what they want, getting feedback, asking what's working, what's not working. And you can do that through, a really robust survey process. You can do it through anecdotal conversations, one-on-one, coach your managers on how to have good, solid one-on-ones with their team members and ask those questions to find out, what are you missing? What motivates you? What do you need more of from the company? What do you need less of from me as your manager? Whatever it is, learn those things and then be mindful and useful with that information that you're gathering. So taking the time to ask and care, and then using that information. So maybe you're going to learn that 75% of the people on your team want more flexibility around work schedule, or they want a hybrid remote work opportunity, or whatever little thing it is that they share. What are you going to do with that information? Some things you'll be able to implement, some things you may not, but you may be able to find ways to incorporate meeting some of those needs and being responsive to them, being creative with them, and letting them know that they've been heard. I mean, if someone says, I want, an extra 10 weeks of vacation, and the company's not going to do that this year, you can say, oh, I appreciate where you're coming from. I would love that too. Maybe we can get creative and come up with something else that would satisfy some of those needs. Like maybe we go to Flex Fridays for the months of June, July, and August, and you only have to work a four-day work week or things like that. But I don't remember exactly what the order of questions was, but basically find out what your employees want and need, and then provide some level of response to that. And I think where organizations may be missing it right now with this Great Resignation is not taking the time to know what those things are, and just expecting employees to, do what I say and get on board or find yourself another home. And, people have become empowered over the last couple of years to really realize what their value and worth is and what's important to them. And if they can't find it with your organization, they might just go try to find it somewhere else. So
I like that. And there's something in there that I always, I hear from clients, prospects, friends, family, you name it. You used a word, and all I can think of, you use the word time. And I can hear an executive or someone out there, a leader, a business leader, who's like, Amy, it's great that you and Greg are talking, but I just don't have the time to do that. So when that comes up, whether it's, in someone you've never met who's listening to us, or a client who brings that up now, what do you tell them with regards, Amy, I just don't have time to do that?
Right. Well, those are the folks that really need to take a look at where your priorities are in the organization. How badly do you need staff? I see organizations, in my town, that have signs on the door and the lights are off saying, we're only open from 4 to 7 due to staffing shortages. So do you not have time to find out what's important to your employees so that you can retain them or so that you can attract the right employees? Because if you don't have the time for that, you may not be able to staff your organization. So that would be one, kind of hard-nosed lesson. But also, if as a leader, you don't have time to invest in having conversations with your team, then maybe we should be talking about, how your business is structured. Do you need, a resource like someone like my firm can provide that could have those conversations for you? Or do you need to reallocate the workflow and the workload within your organization so that someone on the team can dedicate the time and make that a priority? Because people do want the opportunity to be heard. And if you can't take the time for it, then they're going to go find someplace else to be heard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I love the answer because we hear it a lot too, in the sense of, hey, I just don't have time. And I think what gets missed a lot from, business professionals, business owners, executives, is they haven't figured out what it's costing them not to make that change. And, you said it, is it losing people? Is it not staying open enough? And it may not to be dramatic, but does it mean that you're closing the doors? We don't know. And until they take a hard look, as you put it, it might be harsh. I don't think it is. I think it's real. And our business owners and professionals taking enough time and energy to look at those real hard questions and get answers from them. And you do that. And I love that. I do have a curious question though. And it comes from the fact of, your experience, the fact that you own a business and are an entrepreneur. I was thinking about this, we all have successes. Okay. And I would like to find out what you consider your biggest success, but I'm going to start to get the bad one out of the way first in my eyes. And that is, what do you consider like one of your biggest mistakes as a business owner, HR professional? I'll let you pick. Maybe it's both. But what do you consider like one of your biggest mistakes?
Sure. I'll take it from the, just the business ownership perspective, the business leadership perspective. And that is not saying no enough. And, that is actually something that has been on my goals list for last year. And I put it on there again this year as a reminder because I'm a person who seeks harmony. I'm an I on the DISC scale. I'm looking to provide, reassurance and satisfaction to my clients, to my team, to the people that I serve, et cetera. And saying no to people actually pains me. I don't like to let people down. And so as a business owner though, and as a leader, And as a professional, you do need to set your own boundaries and, focus your time and attention on the priorities that are going to move you forward in whatever you're focusing on, whether it's growing your business or building your career, investing in yourself, whatever it is. There are going to be distractions, shiny things over here and whatever, that you potentially may lose your focus by not saying no to some things. And some of the hardest lessons I've learned in business are because I didn't say no when I should have. And some of the best lessons I've learned, even after I got over the pain of telling someone no, and as uncomfortable as that makes me feel, is like, after the 24 hours passes, like, that felt good. I'm glad I was able to be true to myself and say no to that. So sometimes that means saying no to volunteer work, things that, fuel your soul. Sometimes that means saying no to potential business because it's not a good fit, or you don't have the capacity for that today and you don't want to let people down. So I would say saying no.
I love that answer. And it's funny. Was it Warren Buffett that talks about the fact that he says no 99 times out of 100? And we always talk about the fact of that you're either part of your plan or somebody else's, but you get to pick. And I love the fact that, like, I'll call it this, a people pleaser. I love making other people happy. Sometimes, you've got to make yourself happy and understand the long-term ramifications of saying yes to something that maybe isn't the right fit. And I love how you position that. That's a great answer. Thanks, Amy. And
Thanks.
Another thing then, now, as you said, I like to people please too. I want to have some sunshine on this to kind of spin it. So what do you think is your biggest success as a business owner, HR professional? Maybe they're one and the same as well. Maybe they're not. But what would you garner as your biggest success?
I'd say my biggest success personally and professionally is just investing in myself and my development, my growth, being open to guidance from all types of, experts and professionals, people that I value in my career and in my life. So continuous learning, commitment to, if I don't know it, figuring it out. I'm a definite type of person that likes to dig in and figure out those details. I don't like to not have an answer, but I don't fake it. So I enjoy digging in and learning something new. I love a challenge. So my biggest success is just overcoming adversity and digging in and constantly learning. There's, after 25 years in the profession, there's always something more to learn. I spent some time earlier today in a SHRM chapter webinar and, brought good questions to the table for the presenter because there is always more to learn. And, I'm a sponge. I just continue to ask. I'm like an annoying 2-year-old. Why?
I love it. And I'll say this, I'll compliment you on it, is the fact that there's a lot of professionals out there who we don't always have all the answers. That's human. The fact though, and it takes some getting used to, is because we don't know, is to ask, is to say, hey, you know what? I don't, but let me find that out for you. And to be able to not have all the answers, I think is something that is bold to say, but also shows your experience and your expertise in what you do. So I think that's awesome, Amy. Thank you.
Thank
you. A couple things here too, as we I want to wrap us up. First of all, if one thing I'd like to know is and for those that are just bouncing on here, this is Amy Bergman, owner of Insight HRM. What I'd like to find out too is, how do those that are watching and listening today get in touch with you if they have any questions about your services, your products, and how you might be able to help them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm always available to just answer a quick HR related question or some business related question. Provided I have the answer, I will tell you. I'll be honest if I don't. But the best way to reach me is to just reach out, phone, text, or email. Pop on my website, so insighthrm.com, info@insighthrm.com, or phone or text to my phone number, which is also on my website, 517-917-5730.
I love it. I love when someone can make it real easy to get a hold of someone. I mean, believe it or not, sometimes you're looking through pages and pages of Google trying to find it. So you heard Amy, everyone. Go on to Insight HRM, find out more about Amy and how she might be able to help you grow your business. Without any hesitation, I would love to have you on again. Thank you for being a fantastic guest today, Amy, and we wish you the best as a wonderful entrepreneur in the HR community. Thank you again for being on with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's been my pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. And for all of those watching today, again, Greg Coyne, thank you for being on the MISHRM podcast. And until next time, thanks and good luck out there. Have a great one, everybody.